Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For What It's Nerd. It seems this one is another big week for trailers, that being the Dune Part 3 trailer, the Star Wars Maul kind of finishing trailer, the trailer that kind of leads us into the show in the beginning of April, and then Spider-Man Brand New Day as well. Very exciting, all three in their own ways. We haven't had an animated project from Star Wars be sort of ready to go in a little bit now. We didn't, Part 3 for Dune felt so far away, and now seeing a trailer for it brings it more imminently to us. And then as well, of course, Spider-Man Brand New Day being not only a great trailer and not only the return of Spider-Man and a fourth film for Spider-Man, breaking the mold there a little bit with previous Spider-Man, but also I think now the most viewed trailer ever, which is kind of crazy. Not surprising, but crazy. Definitely crazy. So let's get into it. Let's start with Maul, because I feel like Maul we've talked about a little bit already. As you guys know, I'm in two minds regards Filoni. I think what Filoni, when he does his own work, which this is obviously is great. When he's doing other work, not great. And that's going to be my stance on Filoni for most things in general, unless he kind of really flips the script. But with Maul, I think this show looks great. I think it's visually stunning. It's a real advancement on the Clone Wars art style, even from season 7. But if you look back at the original Clone Wars stuff, crazy how far we've come with that art style and how now it looks so impressive and so fluid and beautiful and pretty, and it's crazy. But also this show is a different vibe as well, of course. The idea being it's kind of underworld, but it still has got those Sith Jedi themes through it as well. And Maul isn't necessarily trying to be a Sith, but he's having to deal with his legacy as one, whilst also having a Jedi try and deal with their legacy as Jedi, but kind of become something new to survive as well. Talks about getting revenge. Obviously, there's Inquisitors that are sort of the villains in this, but also there's antagonists, but not necessarily villains, in terms of the law enforcement that's going after Maul. So it's going to be a really interesting show to see develop and see how these characters develop that are around Maul. There's definitely obviously his sycophants as well from the Mandalorian factions, as well as some seemingly Dathomiri elements as well, in terms of Night Brothers essentially. So excited. That's exciting, of course. Regards the Inquisitors, of course, these two Inquisitors that are in the show, Marok from the Ahsoka show, and the, I think, 11th brother from the Tales of the Jedi, which again is one of those pieces of Star Wars media I didn't love, because, as you know, it's taken from the Ahsoka. Well, the Ahsoka book was inspired by a section of what Filoni wanted to do with Ahsoka, and then he's obviously redone it to his own liking thereafter. It decanonized the book, basically, not fully, but basically. So yeah, that was a little frustrating, but obviously that Inquisitor is back in this show as well, so we'll learn a little bit more about them, which of course is interesting. I keep saying interesting, but it is, of course, exciting. Let's say exciting. Because those two characters have been sort of plot devices in the shows they were in, so seeing them hopefully become more than that here will be cool. And it's also good to see Maul go up against characters who we've seen him dispatch Inquisitors before, but go up against characters more thoroughly that are dark side, but not from how he expected things to go. And I think that's a cool concept in general. But it'll be nice to see a different tone for Star Wars. It's nice to see another villain show be done, and let's see how that kind of plays out. Obviously, we know the fate of Maul, so the show's not going to be anything groundbreaking. But whether it does 1 season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, it'll be cool. It'll be I think what's going to be fascinating about this show is how the characters that Maul influences here, if they show up elsewhere, if that's the plan here, are they setting something up there potentially? Are there characters who we'll see elsewhere down the line with Star Wars? I don't know why I'm yawning. Sorry, it's because I'm doing this later than I usually would. I'm recording the night before I usually would, so I'm yawning a little bit. But with Star Wars, you never know when a character will pop up somewhere else. So we shall see with that. That was very embarrassing. But anyway, let's moving swiftly onwards. Yeah. Star Wars, as always, is in a precarious position because this show's coming out, which is Dave Filoni's first showing, as ironically very similar to how it happened with James Gunn as well, where it's an animated show that comes out first and then thereafter a movie not long after, and that's obviously happening here as well with Maul coming out and then the Mando movie coming out. Now Mando won't be as impacted by the show because it's an animated show. So like a show always has less general gain, like audience gain anyway. But then on top of that, an animated show less so. But if this isn't a good start, oh God, I'm yawning all over the place. Sorry guys. If this isn't a good start, then people are going to say, oh, well, there's no point investing in this Filoni era, and some might check out Mando. So it's got to be a good showing. It's got to be a good start for the Filoni era, the Filonian era of Star Wars. That's all I can really say on that for me personally. It's a matter of wait and see. Maul's an interesting character. He always has been. He always has been a fascinating character. People always wanted more of him. This is probably the show that people were wanting for a long time. Let's see if it does what people want it to do. Let's go to Dune next, or June, depending on how you say it. And obviously this is Denis Villeneuve. I think I'm saying that right. That this is his last one, and this loosely, or well, mostly adapts, obviously a little bit different in places because of the Chinese storyline and stuff, but largely adapts the Messiah book, which is the second book, but they're titling this as part 3, and of course that's because they're kind of trying to say that this story goes full circle within those 2 novels. And it does really. This is a different story, though, of course, to the first 2. The first 2 were about Paul coming into his power, and Paul as a savior, Paul as the leader of the Fremen people, and then the Fremen people being lost and persecuted. This movie shows what happens when someone goes from being that to gaining their foothold and kind of pushing further. You know, Paul in this movie is not meant to be the nice guy that everyone loves. Paul is meant to be sort of less liked. Paul has factions coming after him. In the book, Princess Irulan turns on Paul, and with the help of Scytale, who is being played by Robert Pattinson in this, basically starts a conspiracy. Now, I haven't gotten to the end of that book because there's so many things I'm reading at any one given time, but it's going to be an intriguing one. There's a lot of really great, powerful castmates who have joined for the new one, and whether or not we get more Dune after this or not, I think the fact that these 3 movies have been such art house pieces as well as being a sci-fi piece is what matters a lot to me. Sci-fi is one of those genres that is so often swept under the rug. I mean, James Cameron says something very specific, very similar about Avatar. Avatar is one of the highest grossing movies of all time, one of probably the biggest franchises of all time, and it is snubbed because it is sci-fi and it's blue people. Now, Dune is a little bit different because you're dealing with like real people, and you're dealing with I'm not saying that there's not high caliber actors in Avatar, but you're dealing with the sort of, you know, Stellan Skarsgård and I'm trying to think of others off the top of my head, but you know what I mean? Like these actors that are in this, they're real heavy hitters. Timothée Chalamet, I argue, is pretty good, actually, to be fair. Zendaya obviously is a very good actress in her roles that she's done. Rebecca Ferguson as well. Josh Brolin. Like all these characters are actors are very strong at what they do. And Dune itself plays very space opera like, and very, very highbrow, and there's nothing. The only way you can describe it is it's Lord of the Rings in space. It's sci-fi. It's Lord of the Rings. There's the same kind of proto text for their genre, in terms of just being a little bit more. I don't even know the word. A little bit more artistic, a little bit more auteur in a way. That sounds really like weird to say. It sounds almost snobbish, but it's true. I feel like there's something less gimmicky about them. There's something like those two franchises, for want of a better word, aren't built on the idea of becoming franchises. Even Star Wars, in its way, has become, franchised. Like Star Wars is the modern epic, right? But it's franchised. Like, yes, there wasn't an intent of that at the beginning, but as soon as you make a second movie, it becomes franchised. When these books were written, The Lord of the Rings and Dune, there wasn't that intent. There was never an intent for like becoming movies. And in fact, I think a lot of the time when you have a big book series that gets turned into a movie, that's when you get more of these artistic pieces, and you get more of these kind of, don't get me wrong, sometimes it goes wrong, but you get these more thoughtful pieces because there's a lot of lore there in the background. I feel when it's a movie first, there's a struggle because there's just like, why is this happening? Oh, I don't know. We'll worry about it later. We'll make it up in a book. The book becomes the explanation material rather than the book being the information from the start. So I think that's part of it. But I think the trailer looks really good. I think visuals have stepped up again. I think, the fact that there's such a visual storytelling in these movies, but also the sound mixing has always been amazing. The pure vibes of just being surrounded by the sounds and the music of Arrakis is always a win. And seeing other places in this one is going to be interesting too. I think the fact that like you're now seeing the wider galaxy and the implications of what Paul has done is going to be something that people are actually really enjoy. I think Dune is Arrakis, but there is a universe beyond it as well, and so we'll see a little bit more of that and see what that looks like in this movie a little bit more. So that's my opinion on the new Dune trailer, and of course very excited to see that at the end of this year. And as well as that, of course, Spider-Man Brand New Day. So in this trailer we see Spidey fully putting himself into the role of being Spider-Man, and we see him cross paths with the Punisher. We see him cross paths with Bruce Banner. Obviously we don't see Hulk in this trailer, but the likelihood is that's going to happen. We see his struggle with MJ and knowing that she's not with him, and we see I'm going to get this name wrong, I think, but Iman is if Sandy, I'm probably saying the surname wrong, apologies, who played Ezra Bridger in Ahsoka. He is in this movie seemingly as the new love interest for MJ in this one. So that's Tom Holland's kind of Spidey is being sort of torturing himself, keeping an eye on this, whilst also dealing with all these villains. You've got the Hand, which is fascinating. I wonder why the Hand's involved. Be cool to see how that relates to Daredevil season 2, if at all. Obviously, Punisher's in this. You've got Sadie Sink's character, who everyone seems to think is Jean Grey, but is she Jean Grey? Who knows? We've got Boomerang. We've got Scorpion. A lot of people are thinking there's going to be a montage at the beginning of the movie that's sort of like showing off a lot of Spidey's hero antics across the last few years with the villains that kind of entails. Included in that, which I think could be a cool way of kind of making it feel very Spider-Man very quickly. But yeah, lots of characters in this one. I think this is as much an event as Doomsday in a way. I think seeing Spider-Man so changed by the events of the last movie and seeing that he has so much going on, and it's an alive New York with all these different characters popping up and showing up, and what's happening with them, and like what's his struggle, because it looks like he's like mutating genetically. Is he turning into some kind of, a lot of people are thinking, is he going to go down the man-spider route? Is that going to happen? I've had some people theorize with me that potentially by the end of the movie, to counteract this, there's some kind of symbiote nonsense and the black suit could appear. That could be an interesting way. And I would arguably add on to that, what if that means that him and MJ kind of have maybe start to get somewhere regards their relationship, potentially getting back into this sort of swing of things, and so to speak. And it turns out that he does what Peter Parker does, like Tobey Maguire's did, where he kind of pushes everyone away because he's turned into an absolute asshole. That would be an interesting kind of way of finishing that movie off for the next one, where Spidey goes into Secret Wars, but he has his suit, because obviously in Secret Wars, in the comics, the original Secret Wars, that's where he gets his black suit. It'd be interesting if that's how it starts in this one. He has the black suit and he loses the black suit during Secret Wars. That'll be a cool way of kind of maybe keeping him out. In the meantime, he's not really interested in partaking in the Doom shit because of the stuff going on in his life regards the black symbiote suit. That's a thought, at least. I don't know if that's just thoughts, just potential ideas. But yeah, obviously, this is a very interesting time, a very exciting time for Marvel because you have the Daredevil show bringing back characters who we've missed for a while in Brett Mahoney, the detective, and obviously Jessica Jones, which is obviously really exciting, with the rumor that some others are coming as well. And then, of course, we have this here with Punisher showing up in a movie, which is crazy in my opinion, and then Hulk obviously is going to show up in this, I have no doubt, with rumors of Yelena showing up at some point, and if Jean Grey does show up, that will be a stacked cast of characters in a Spider-Man movie, so we will see how that goes as well. Of course, that is coming out, let me just check the date on that. That's coming out July 31st, so we haven't got that long to wait for that, so it'll be interesting. It'll be cool to see where that's going, see kind of how that's going to lead, because like I'm imagining the post-credit scene for that is going to be very Doomsday-esque, Doomsday focused, even though Spidey apparently isn't going to be in Doomsday for one reason or another, or maybe if not Doomsday focused, but Doomsday explanatory, like what's the context behind Doomsday if Spider-Man's not in it. But yeah, so it's been a really good week for trailers. Obviously 3 projects that I have excitement for on varying levels, and we shall see how they all go. Of course, as usual with trailers, we discuss them, then we'll discuss the actual thing when it comes out. So positive vibes for these 3 trailers as yet. Let's see if the movies hold up in that experience. And guys, thank you for watching and listening as always. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.